Nevada officials say they are committed to preventing future prison breaks after a convicted killer escaped late last month. Porfirio Duarte-Herrera, who police say broke out of a southern Nevada prison, was ultimately rearrested despite having a 4-day head start on police. And this is where he's being held now, the Ely State Prison. The Department of Corrections says it's a maximum security facility, and he'd been held under medium security at Southern Desert Correctional Center during his escape. But now, with Duarte-Herrera back behind bars at a more secure jail, the Nevada Department of Corrections is looking to shore up security across the board. And Fox 5's Drew Andre has more on their next steps under new leadership.
Keeping a closer eye on inmates, the now acting director of the Department of Corrections, Bill Gutierrez, sent out a memo to all employees labeled "Getting Back to Security Basics." In the letter obtained by Fox 5, Gutierrez shares with employees that it was a, quote, confidential source that informed officers of the escape. Duarte-Herrera was not discovered missing until officers received that tip Tuesday morning, some 3.5 days after he escaped the prison. By allegedly using battery acid to break through his cell window, the president of a union that represents corrections officers told us the tower that would have eyes on the unit Duarte-Herrera escaped from and the part of the fence he climbed over has not been staffed for over a year. In a new directive to wardens, Gutierrez ordered, effective immediately, every prison in the state will be required to staff all guard towers. Officer shortages are the main reason towers haven't been staffed. The directive requires that the officers cannot be posted in that same tower for more than 4 straight hours. The rotation is meant to help officers maintain awareness and surveillance. But some familiar with prison operations question if it's realistic.
There's too much overtime, there's too little staff, and it's great to say, hey, let's pay more attention to this and let's have more officers available to do this. But the reality of it is you're not producing any more officers. So you're taking them away from somewhere else where they're probably needed just as much.
The director's memo continues by saying it will mean even longer hours, greater attention to detail, and more effort by all. But the goal is to regain trust from the people of Nevada. They must know that we are rededicated and determined to protect them without exception. I'm Drew Andre, Fox 5 News, local, Las Vegas.
The governor said 6 officers at the Southern Desert Correctional Facility are now on administrative leave following that escape.